In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace your radiator on your Kia Soul. It's located behind your bumper. Make sure that you go down to your local shop and have your AC system evacuated. You're going to use a 10mm socket. Take out this bolt on this side and the one on the other side. Next, we're going to take out these plastic grommets. Going to see if it comes out. Well, that's good. All right, a good way to get these out is put a little pressure on the bottom, underneath, and then they'll come right out. Next, you're going to do these. Okay, once you get those out, you can take this off. If your vehicle had an under tray, remove that first. And then we're going to remove this and work our way down. Some of the parts on this vehicle are missing also, so. I'm going to take this. This holds the fender cover. There's one on the other side as well. You should have a plastic tab here to remove, and one on the other side as well. Next, we're going to remove the other side. And also take this out if yours is not broken. All right, so now we're going to take out this screw. It connects the bumper to the body of the car and the wheel well. All right, so now we're going to take out this screw. You're going to pull out and then forward. Do it on the other side as well. All right. Okay. All right. So there's a little tab underneath this piece, and you're going to pull up and out. Same on this side. Pull up and out. We're going to remove the air box next. You're going to need a 10mm and an extension. Take out this bottom bolt. Set that off to the side. I'm going to use a 10mm socket and extension for this other bolt in front. Take your hose clamp off your air box. Twist. And take off the hose. Set that off to the side. Now I'm going to disconnect this hose from the radiator. filler. Sometimes you gotta crack it loose first by twisting it and then pulling it off. Set that off to the side. You're gonna use your 10mm socket and an extension to start loosening this hose clamp. Now we're gonna take out these. Hold a little pressure underneath and unscrew. Remove this. Looks like this is still stuck to our engine, so we're going to disconnect this hose so we can get to it a little easier. All right, since that piece down there, that clamp down there is not undoing, I'm going to get this one out of our way. So we're going to take this clamp, loosen it up. Disconnect this. Now we're going to disconnect it from here. Put that off to the side. Then take that out. All right, so in order to get this part of the airbox off, I had to break the clamp because it was so rusted solid it wouldn't move. So now that that has been removed or broken off, I'm able to take that off. I'll have to replace this clamp. All right, so you're gonna take your cap off. Make sure your engine is cool when you do this. You don't want to be doing a radiator with a hot engine. You're gonna push down and twist. Take that off. That'll relieve the pressure so the coolant drains out faster. You're gonna want to take this out if you don't want to get it all full of coolant. Ours is zip tied up, but you have two clips, one here and one here, and just pull it back. So now you're just gonna unscrew your drain plug. Sometimes you need to use pliers because it's hard to unscrew. All right, so we are going to disconnect our transmission lines. First, I'm going to snip this wire tie to free up these. And then I'm going to pull them out from the bottom here. And here. All right, so next we're gonna take our lower hose off the radiator using pliers. I'm gonna get that clamp. I like to use locking pliers. Makes it easier to squeeze and push away. And now we're gonna push off that hose. You may get some more coolant that comes out. So just have your drip pan ready. All right, we're going to use a 10mm and take out these 4 bolts for this cover. All right, so now we're going to take our tranny cooler lines off Slide it down. Might need a drip pan under here. Can use a pry bar. After you take that down, you're going to want to plug it. All right, so you want to either put a clean bolt or a plug on this, and then find a spot where gravity will do its job. Because after a certain point, this line won't leak anymore unless it's upside down. So I'm just going to prop it up over here. Now we're going to disconnect this little line. Make sure you have a drip pan below and something to plug the line with, unless you want to just drain it and put it up and let gravity do the job. Push that clamp down. Break loose your hose. If you need to, you can use a pry bar to get the hose off. Okay, be ready with your drip pan underneath. Using a 10mm socket, I'm going to disconnect our horn. Disconnect your horn connector. And put that off to the side. Okay, now we're going to take our hood latch off with 10mm socket. There's one more on the bottom. Okay, so now we're going to take off our hood latch and also the hood puller. The cable here is for the pull. What you're going to do is you're going to use a screwdriver and pull that out of its bracket. Then you're going to take your cable and pull it down over here and take it out. We're going to use a Phillips head screwdriver or drill and take out our clips for this. There should be 3. Using locking pliers, I'm going to take off my hose clamp for the upper radiator hose. You can use regular pliers as well. Now we can take our hose off. So now we're going to remove our upper radiator hose. I'm using a pry bar. Might want a drip pan below as well, just to get the rest of the hose out of my way and not have to disconnect it. I'm going to turn my hose upward a little bit. I'm going to take that off by pulling it up. And then we can disconnect our lines using a 10mm socket. we're going to have to free up the nut off of the stud. All right, my lines appear to be stuck, so I'm going to wiggle them a little bit with the pry bar. There's an O-ring in there that you want to loosen up before you just yank it out. So once you got it loose, be careful not to gouge the metal, the aluminum, and pull it out. Give that one a wiggle. Okay, that's line number 2. Just going to put that off to its side. Now we're going to take out our condenser. All right, so there's 4 clips, or should I say slide brackets, 2 on each side. We just got to lift up the condenser out of there. Looks like the top 2 have a lip on them, and the bottom does not. So I'm going to use my thumbs, lift that up. Should come out fairly easy once you get past the radiator bracket here. There we go. All right. Now we're going to use a 10 millimeter to take out the radiator bracket bolts. 2 on this side and 2 on this side. Take our brackets off and set them off to the side. Next, we're going to take out these 2 bolts using a 10 millimeter socket. If you ever get a nut stuck on the bolt and you know you're replacing your radiator, you can just squeeze the plastic with a pair of locking pliers, tighten it up to hold that nut, and then work the bolt out. I would go back and forth with it. You don't want to break the fan bracket. It's okay to break the radiator one because you're replacing it. So you're going to put the locking pliers on the radiator, not the fan. Once you get it moving, it should come off. All right, I'm going to get this free after I get the radiator out of there. All right, so now we have an easier time getting this free. I have my locking pliers on the square nut and a 10 millimeter on the head. And it's a much easier time freeing this up. So now we can reuse this bolt. You're going to be lining up the bottom of the radiator. We're getting it close to it at least. We have to put the fan on. 2. That's a good place to lean it. I'm going to put a piece of cardboard here. All right, so putting the bottom of your radiator into the rubber grommets and putting a piece of cardboard on the metal part is a good idea, just so you don't dent your new radiator while we put our fan on. Next, we're going to install the fan. I'm going to slide these brackets into the radiator brackets. There's 1 on each side. Once that's slid in, you can lean it if needed, and we're going to install our bolts. All right, so this radiator came with its square nuts in the bracket already. So we're not going to reuse those. We're going to reuse our bolts, however. Use a 10mm socket and snug that up. A little bit, and then go to the other side. And tighten up this other side. Just to about wrist tight. All right, now we have the fan in place. We're going to tilt it forward. Make sure that the bottom of the radiator is where it belongs. I'm going to take my cardboard out too. Apply a little pressure. Make sure it's even. And now we can put our radiator brackets in. One of these on for now. So you're gonna put your 10mm bolts in the bracket. Snug it up. We're gonna wait on this bracket until we get our condenser attached. You're gonna line up your brackets. Make sure you have all 4 lined up before you push it down. All right, once that's in, we're going to put our bracket on. Snug it up. So now we're ready to connect our lines. Let's make sure those O-rings are seated in there. All right, going to use a 10mm socket and torque these lines to 8 foot-pounds. Do your best if you can't get your torque wrench in there. Eight foot-pounds is not much. You just want the line seated in there. So when it's flush, it's probably about 8 foot-pounds. All right, so now we're going to connect our top tranny line. Take our cap off the line. We'll use that for something else one day. Those are good to save. And slide your line on. And we'll get our hose clamp up. All right, squeeze my hose clamp. Bring it back where it lives. When you put a hose clamp on, you want to just put it on the where you feel the hose expand a little bit, and you want to put it right before that. That'll give you the best seal. All right, so you're going to take the paper off of your radiator for the lower hose. Once you get that off, you can just put your radiator hose on. All right, so now we're going to put our hose clamp on. All right. Now we're going to put our plastic cover on. It slides into these two brackets on the condenser. So now we're here, we're going to put our cable, our hood popper cable, into our bracket. We're going to slide it through that. You're going to get the ball past that. And you're going to slide it down, lock it in, and then you're going to turn it this way and pull it through, and then you got to lock it into that. Using a pry bar or a screwdriver, whatever you have handy. And now we are going to put our bolts in. There are 3 bolts, 1, 2, and 1 on the bottom. Start them with your hands first, and snug them down. All right, so now we're going to put our horn back on. You're going to put your connector first. Make sure you hear that click. Start your bolt. Snug it up. All right, I'm going to put this reservoir hose on now. All right, now I'm going to move my hose and put it on the radiator, the upper part of the radiator. And let that go free. I'm going to move this hose clamp down to secure it. I always try to match up where the hose used to live. All right, now I'm going to reinstall the lower training line onto the radiator. All right. Okay, let's put our lines back where they live. That one goes there, that goes up there. And these I'm going to put here, and I have a zip tie ready. I fed it through here. So you should do the same so that you can tie them down. So use this padding here. So the zip tie with vibration doesn't wear a hole through the lines. Once you've secured those, with the zip tie you can cut the excess off. If you don't have these foam pieces, also you can use extra hose and wrap it around that hose, or you can use like the plastic coating you see on wires. If you don't have extra hose or foam, you can use the wiring harness protective outer layer that they use sometimes. Basically, you just want to keep those lines from getting worn through. All right, now that's secure. I'm going to cut the zip tie off, the excess. Check my work. Looking good. And now we can install our plastic covers underneath. All right, so we're going to put our cover back on. 2 bolts up here. Start them by hand. And then there's 2 bolts on this side. All right, so we're gonna undo our bungee cord. And let this go back to where it lives. All right, our bolts have broken off, or this vehicle came to us with these bolts broken off. And rather drilling it out, and being it's just a plastic cover, we're gonna zip tie them up. So I've put a hook here, basically with a zip tie. And I'm going to attach it with another. I'm just going to cut off the excess. All right, this vehicle was obviously in an accident. The bumper needed a lot of work. This piece is broken. It protects the radiator somewhat. So once again, I'm going to use some zip ties. You can too at home, or you can replace this piece. So I drilled it out, 2 holes, top and bottom, so I could fit a zip tie through. I'm going to hook it up to this bracket on the condenser. And secure it. I'm going to cut off this excess when I'm done. And then on this bottom piece, it was a little more tricky, but I found a way. Okay, now we're going to cut off the excess. Good. So now we're going to put our bumper on, reinstall it. It's helpful to have something nearby to help hold it up. Before you start snapping in anything into place, make sure you are lined up everywhere. We're looking good. All right, so once you're lined up, you can go ahead and snap that in. Work your way to the front and put the other side in. So right here and here, there is a little thing sticking up out of the bumper frame. You're gonna make sure that your plastic is lined up with that stuff. And then we're gonna work our way to the side. You're gonna have to give it a whack if it's been in an accident like ours. Otherwise it should snap in nicely. Put your plastic pieces in here. You're gonna need 3 plastic grommets for the 3 holes to attach this cover. Once you attach that, then you can put your next one on. All right, so now it's time to put our plastic pieces back. Put your hooks underneath. Now we're going to bolt it down with bolts on either side, here and here. Tighten up this side. So now we're going to put our plastic grommets in to the holes. You may have to replace some of these. Put the next 3 in. All right, so I'm going to attach these clips. My other one's broken, but we'll do our best to to fasten this bottom part. All right, next we're going to do these. All right, now we're going to put these in these holes. Make sure your fender liner is secure. All right, so now we're going to put our screws to connect our bumper to the body. These are really important ones. Without these, your bumper might fall off. All right, now we're going to put our air box on after our vehicle is lowered. We're going to line up our holes for our bolts and this little piece that sticks out into that rubber grommet. And as you're lowering it down, you want to make sure that your air box is lining up with your intake. Okay, looks good. All right, so we're going to put this hose on. It may take a little patience to get it to line up correctly. All right, after you tighten this hose clamp, you can attach your airbox hose. Slide that clamp down. All right, and we're just going to put our clamp on. Now we're going to tighten up that hose clamp. Okay. All right, make sure your bolts are lined up down there and start them by hand. And you can snug them down. Now we're ready to put the rest of our airbox on. Push that in and slide it down into its housing right here. And we're going to put 2 plastic push pins in here. You're going to want to put a funnel of some sort, or if you have one of these, this fittings for it. This fitting fits. Make sure the rubber part goes in there. The rubber O-ring, and then you're gonna tighten down with the cap. Now you're able to fill this up, fill the radiator all the way up, and let the air come out with gravity at first until you have about it up to here. Then you'll start the car, and as the car warms up and the thermostat opens, the rest of the coolant will go where it belongs, and then you can top it off. Make sure that your cap is on tight. So while we did the radiator job on this Kia Soul, we did lose some transmission fluid. Anytime you lose transmission fluid, you're going to want to top it off. Look in your owner's manual for specifications and type of fluid, and also for the procedures, and do what's recommended. All right, now that you've topped off your coolant, you bled the air out of the system, you can take it for a road test. Make sure your temperature gauge goes up to where it belongs. Make sure you take it to a local repair shop to have it recharged with your AC oil, and you have heat, and you should be good to go.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.